Villagers rent a villa could be a source of more fines. A villager's tree trimming arrest appears to be tied to a deed compliance case. Waitress who stole $15,000 from a diner in the Villages lands back behind bars. CDD 10 to seek a 15% maintenance assessment hike. Unlicensed driver from Guatemala arrested in Fruitland Park. Another hotel has been approved by the Wildwood Commission. Officials are considering cutting the times that an RV can be at a home in the Villages. A 95-year-old villager enters a plea in a charge she hit the golf cart and fled the scene. A 20-year-old arrested after alleged attack at Airbnb rental in the Villages. Villager who hit bicyclist with her Mercedes wants an early release from prison. A sex offender from Pennsylvania checks into the Waterfront Hotel. Suspect living in a rented villa arrested in golf cart theft. A new recreation center to open this week in the village of Newell. VIP edition of Bad Parking here in Florida's friendliest hometown. This and more coming up. A 20-year-old was arrested after an alleged attack at an Airbnb rental in the Villages. A woman at 2110 Estevez Drive in Villa Vera Cruz in the village of Santo Domingo told Sumter County Sheriff's deputies that she had been abused at the residence by Murphy Robert Glenn Palmer. The arrest report identified the residence as an Airbnb rental. The woman claimed that Palmer, who stands 6'4" tall and weighs 185 pounds, punched her legs with his fist, leaving several small purple bruises. She also claimed that he grabbed her left arm and right leg, digging in his fingernails into her flesh and leaving some small abrasions on her skin. He was booked at 10 p.m. Monday on a charge of battery at the Sumter County Detention Center. Bond was set at $5,000. The arrest comes at a time when more and more villagers are complaining about short-term rentals in the Villages. Residents say short-term rentals attract people with no long-term commitment to the community. They say that rentals, like Airbnb, bring with them parking problems, loud music, excessive consumption of alcohol. Departing renters often leave trash out for days ahead of pickup, and garbage bags are picked up by the birds, other animals leaving behind a neighborhood mess. I gotta say, I don't like the idea of Airbnbs either. A 95-year-old villager who entered a plea to a charge she left the scene of an accident after her vehicle struck a fellow resident's golf cart, resulting in serious injury to the woman. Eleanor Levitt, 95, was allegedly at the wheel of a green 2007 Mercury Montego on the afternoon of December 29th when she ran a stop sign and hit a golf cart driven by 81-year-old Nancy Lou Hooper. Levitt was arraigned in Marion County Court on Tuesday and pleaded not guilty to a charge of failure to remain at the scene of a crash. She remains free on a $5,000 bond. The New York native had been scheduled for arraignment on June the 6th, but apparently there was some miscommunication when a letter was sent to her at Sumter County Senior Living on County Road 466A in the Villages. But the court clerk's notice was marked return to sender according to the court files. Well, we'll see what happens there. A landscaper with a bad driving record was arrested at a job site in the Villages. Pascual Dom Alvarez Gutierrez, 25 of Leesburg, was driving a black Dodge pickup with an expired sticker on the license plate when he was spotted shortly before 11 a.m. Monday by a motorcycle patrolman with a Sumter County Sheriff's Office. The name will be on the picture. Gutierrez stopped in the 2500 block of Neptune Drive in the village of St. James, and it appeared he was preparing to begin work, according to the arrest report. The deputy asked Gutierrez license, registration, and insurance, but the native of Mexico said he did not have that information with him. He admitted that his license had been suspended due to a conviction for driving under the influence. Gutierrez had been driving the same Dodge pickup in 2021 when he was arrested on a drunk driving charge in Fruitland Park. He said he'd consumed 2 shots of liquor. He also had an alcohol beverage in a Fiesta Grande restaurant cup in the truck. He provided breath samples that registered .209 and .201 blood alcohol content. At 11 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, teeth their own, I guess. A Continental Country Club man has been arrested for the second time within 2-week period. David Joseph Middleton, 64, was arrested at about 7:30 p.m. Saturday at the 55-plus community in Wildwood. Sumter County Sheriff's deputies were called to investigate a suspicious incident at Continental Country Club and found the Michigan native in the front seat of his green 2006 Ford Focus. He claimed he was getting ready to play basketball. The deputy detected the odor of marijuana coming from the car. Middleton handed over a bag of marijuana he had tucked in the driver's side door pocket. He was arrested on a charge of possession of marijuana and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. He was released after posting a $500 bond. Middleton had been arrested May 31 when he was found in possession of drug paraphernalia and open liquor. He had also been arrested last year with marijuana. Man, just go get your license and you can have this stuff. You can't do any of this while driving a vehicle. If you're sitting behind a wheel and your keys are in that ignition, whether the engine's running or not running, you're going to get nailed. Wise up. Officials are considering cutting the amount of time recreational vehicles are allowed at homes in the villages. Community Development District 5 supervisors on Wednesday discussed changing the rules regarding RVs. Currently, the CDD5 RVs, including motorhomes, travel trailers, fifth-wheel trailers, pop-up campers, truck campers, are allowed in driveways for up to 72 hours. This allowance is made in an effort to accommodate the packing and unpacking of the RV, according to CDD5 rules, which includes the villages of Ashland, Belvedere, Bonnybrook, Liberty Park, Lynn Haven, Point Siena, Winifred, and Sunset Point. The board is considering reducing the amount of time to 48 hours. The board is expected to vote on this rule change next month. Supervisor Gerald Felici said it is important to hear from the residents about the proposed change prior to the vote. 48 hours technically, I suppose, is really enough time to pack and unpack and if you're not an RVer, you wouldn't know. If you know exactly what you're going to pack, how you're going to pack it, and what you're going to unpack when you get back, because generally when you come back with more stuff than you left with. So you could probably get by with 48 hours, but 72 hours for especially old people on a 90-degree day, we can take more time to take our time, because in between loading and unloading, you're going to take breaks, cool down, and then go out and do some more. So I think they got to take the age in consideration also. A 216-room hotel is planned north of County Road 466A and west of Powell Road in the villages. Special Magistrate Lindsay C.T. Holt recommended approval by the City Commission of a site plan for the 112,034 square foot hotel at a meeting Tuesday at the Wildwood Planning and Zoning Board. The hotel would occupy 2 4-story buildings on 5 acres with 92 rooms in the westerly building and 124 rooms in the other. The proposed Road of Inspiration Drive needs to be constructed before development of the easterly building. Part of the Turkey Run development, the hotel would be east of American House Senior Living Center. On the other side of the American House, a 335-unit rental community called Village Point was approved by the commissions more than 2 years ago. The project was expected to have a mix of housing styles, including villas, townhomes, and apartments. Village Point and the hotel may require a traffic signal at Inspiration Drive on Powell Road, north of 466A. The apartment community was expected to add 100 students to Wildwood Public Schools. They better do something about the roads around here, because as winter snowbirds keep coming down for all these other developments, you're not going to be able to hardly drive from one end of town to the other. A villager's tree trimming arrest last week appears to be tied to her neighbor's deed compliance case. The day after 78-year-old Janice Frances McKee of the village of Hacienda East was arrested for trespassing and criminal mischief, her neighbor's property was the subject of a public hearing before the Community Development District 1 Board of Supervisors at Savannah Center. McKee, who lives at 1301 Fontana Court, has property that backs up to the residence of William Calabrese at 1302 Corona Avenue. Sumter County Sheriff's deputies had responded 5 times to a dispute involving the Waring neighbors, culminating in McKee's arrest on June 8 after the Buffalo, New York native allegedly went onto Calabrese's property and began cutting his tree down with tree loppers. We read this last week. I still get a kick out of it. McKee, who acknowledged she had been warned multiple times to stay off of Calabrese's property, claimed she needed to cut down the tree in order to have an effective survey completed. Huh? She showed deputies a satellite image of the property, but had drawn a new line on the image with a pin, cutting through his residence and claiming half of his house was hers also. Oh, Lord. Ooh. Have you been dipping the tail just a little bit? I'm sure we'll hear more about this. A rental villa owned by a couple in the Villages could be the source of fines due to weeds, dead plants, and bare lawn. The villa at 597 Lacey Place in the Audrey Villas was the subject of a public hearing Wednesday before a Community Development District 6 Board of Supervisors at Seabreeze Recreation Center. The villa is owned by Arthur and Lynn Sindoris, whose primary residence is in the village of Sunset Point. They purchased the villa in 2014 for $200,000. A complaint was received March 30th by Community Standards about the condition of the lawn. Sindoris told Community Standards that an application for updating the landscaping was going to be submitted to the Architectural Review Committee. The application was submitted on May 10. Community Standards conducted a follow-up with Sindoris on May 31st. He said a landscaper was lined up to do the work in June. An inspection earlier this week showed the work has not been done. The CDD6 board agreed to give Sindoris 30 days to get the work finished. If it is not completed, a series of fines will be imposed until the work is done. A waitress who stole $15,000 from a diner in the Villages has landed back behind bars. Paula Jean Petrus, 50, was being held this week without bond at the Sumter County Detention Center. Petrus, who is also using the last name Fayard, was placed on 5-year probation in 2019 after stealing $15,000 from her employer when she was working at Daryl's Diner at Pinellas Plaza. Petrus was booked into jail last week after a June 1 drug screen revealed she had methamphetamine in her system. In a statement, Petrus admitted she swallowed the methamphetamine when her son had friends over. She said she didn't think it would hurt. She blamed her decision on stress and life. Excuses, excuses, excuses. While Petrus was working at Daryl's Diner, she had been given the power to override transactions. This was done primarily if a customer complained about a quality of a meal. The manager said that when Petrus would clear her sales at the end of the day, she would only report credit sales and put all the cash sales in her pocket. Petrus was voiding transactions up to 12 times a day, totaling approximately $150 to $175 each day. The situation came to light after another employer witnessed Petrus void a transaction in which cash was paid for a breakfast and the amount of sale was reset to zero. Even though cash was paid for the items purchased, Petrus, in an interview at the Wildwood police station, said she was not guilty. The former resident of the Layton Villas said that the transactions were not intentional, but were a mistake. It's always a mistake, right? $15,000 worth of mistakes. She had been ordered to make restitution to her former employer and was set up on a payment plan. She was arrested March 22 after failing to follow through with the payments. Petrus, who previously went by the name of Paula Ayers, was arrested in 2017 after allegedly filing a false police report in which she had claimed she was the victim of a sexual battery. She later escaped prosecution in the case. In 2011, she was convicted on a charge of driving under the influence and later served time in jail after violating her probation in that case. Bumping up against the statutory deadline, Community District Development 10 supervisors agreed Thursday to move ahead with a 15% maintenance assessment increase for its residents. That's me. I guess I'm going to pay more too. The board has tentatively approved a $4.3 million operating budget for the year 2023 through 2024. Final approval will come in a hearing set for 3 p.m. September 14th at Seabreeze Recreation Center. The largest share of the budget is devoted to the project-wide advisory committee. PWAC members, which include Community Development District 5 through 13, are seeing a 12% increase across the board. Many CDDs, which are funded through an annual maintenance assessment paid by residents, are devoting roughly 50% of their overall budgets to PWAC. Supervisor Steve Bova, represented CDD-10 on PWAC, has expressed concern about the ongoing budget with PWAC. I don't know how much longer we can sustain these times of increase. It's going to get out of hand. His comments echoed similar observations last week from supervisors in CDD-13. Bova was among those earlier this week questioning the requested $247,783 increase for a contractor responsible for pond maintenance. An unlicensed speeding driver from Guatemala was arrested in Fruitland Park. Hector Hernandez Riaz, 34 of Leesburg, was driving a dark colored sedan at 8:46 a.m. Tuesday when he was caught on radar traveling at 40 miles per hour in a 25 miles per hour zone in the area of Pine Ridge Dairy Road and Pagoda Road, according to the arrest report. During a traffic stop, the native of Guatemala admitted he does not have a driver's license and handed the officer his passport. This seems to be a trick around here. They don't have a driver's license, they don't have insurance, they don't have anything, but they hand the officer a passport. Somehow I got a feeling that they know something legal there. There's a legality there about that because it seems like they're all doing it. He also revealed that he had been involved a month ago in an accident in Leesburg and had been cited for driving without a valid license. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a license and booked at the Lake County Jail. He was released after posting a $500 bond. Now, if he's in an accident, surely he has insurance then. This is my ignorance, I guess, in the state of Florida. I know in Indiana how it is, but I don't know how it is here on everything. So you're telling me I can get insurance on a car? I don't have a driver's license to drive. Indiana, you can do that. But you had a license to be able to drive a car that they're going to insure. It all sounds fishy to me. An elderly golf cart driver appears to have been at fault in a collision with a car in the Villages. The release of an accident report this week by the Florida Highway Patrol is shedding new light on a crash which occurred June 6 in the village of Alhambra. An 85-year-old Alhambra man had been driving a 2021 Yamaha golf cart at 3:55 p.m. that day east on Pravada Drive, approaching the intersection with Botello Avenue, when he pulled into the direct path of a red 2017 Chevrolet Spark, driven by a 52-year-old Village of Alhambra man who had been headed north of Botello Avenue. The Chevy hit the golf cart and it overturned. The villager driving the golf cart was taken by ambulance to Ocala Regional Medical Center. The report noted that he had failed to yield the right of way. The driver of the Chevy was not injured. Stop sign? What? Are you kidding? I thought that was just a suggestion. A resident of the Villages who was driving on a learner's permit was arrested at Southern Trace Plaza. A resident of the Villages driving on a learner's permit. This don't even add up. Michael Angelo Valentino, 37, who lives in a rented patio villa in the Ivy Stone Villas in the village of Woodbury, at 9:35 a.m. Thursday was driving a silver Mitsubishi Raider pickup with a Georgia license plate on County Road 466 at Preston Drive when a Sumter County Sheriff's deputy noticed that Valentino was not wearing a seatbelt. A traffic stop was initiated at a Circle K at Southern Trace Plaza. He was driving on a learner's permit, according to the arrest report, but did not have a person 21 years of age with a valid driver's license in the vehicle with him. A K-9 unit was called to the scene and the dog alerted on the truck, indicating the likelihood of presence of drugs. A search of the truck turned up a small digital scale which tested positive for the presence of marijuana. Valentino was arrested and charged of possession of drug paraphernalia. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $500 bond. A man from Mexico who has been in the United States for less than a year was arrested after running a stop sign. Jesus Omar Barrientos Aguilar, 33 of Leesburg, was driving a white Ford van traveling at about 25 miles an hour at 11:30 a.m. Saturday when he ran a stop sign at Dixie Avenue and Berkman Street. During a traffic stop, officers attempted to communicate with Barrientos Aguilar, who only speaks Spanish. The registered owner of the Ford van was summoned to the scene. The owner helped to facilitate communication with Barrientos Aguilar, who indicated that other drivers had waved him through the intersection intersection. A check with dispatch confirmed that Aguilar does not have a driver's license. He has been in the country for about 8 months. He was arrested on a charge of driving while license suspended. He was ticketed for failure to stop at the stop sign. He was booked at the Lake County Jail and released after posting a $500 bond. The Marion County Sheriff's Office is remaining tight-lipped about a recent home invasion reported in the village of Calumet Grove. Home invasion occurred on June 12th in the 7500 block of Southeast 172nd Fieldcrest Street. The invasion is active and ongoing, so additional information is limited at this time, said Zach Moore, a public information officer with the Sheriff's Office. While the Sheriff's Office will only confirm that a home invasion was reported, social media has been abuzz with the alleged details. Unverified reports on social media indicate a man came to the door asking for water. Once he slipped inside, the intruder bound up the 88-year-old homeowner with duct tape. The intruder stole a car. It was recovered later at the nearby Orange Blossom Hills community on County Road 42. And that's all we have. A 20-year-old mother residing in the village of Pennycamp was videotaped in an alleged attack on her boyfriend. Abigail Nicole Rankin, who lives in the Boxwood Villas, had been involved in an altercation with her boyfriend at his home in the 800 block of Barwick Street, according to an arrest report from the Wildwood Police Department. Rankin, who was holding the child she shares with her boyfriend, the boyfriend tried to take his keys back, but Rankin proceeded to strike and tug on the victim's shirt, leaving a scratch mark on his shoulder and torso, and even ripping his shirt off. She got into her car and left with the child. The boyfriend, who is in an active physical relationship with Rankin but does not live with her, provided video evidence of the attack to police. She was arrested on a charge of battery and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. She was released after posting a $200 bond. There's a lot of this story that I just don't get. A Village of DeLuna woman was arrested after an alleged brawl over a tree at her home. Seems like we've had a lot of fights about trees this week. The owner of a local tree nursery had gone at about 11 a.m. Monday at the home of 68-year-old Deborah Ingrazia at 4389 Casey Court, where he intended to dig up a tree he previously had planted in her yard, according to the arrest report. She had stopped payment for the tree. Oh, I see. He's repossessing his tree. While he was removing the tree, Ingracia pushed him, according to the arrest report. When he took the tree and loaded it into a trailer attached to his truck, Ingracia began pulling branches off of the tree. The man's girlfriend had accompanied him, and she used her phone to video Ingracia as she began pulling branches off the tree. Ingracia responded by attacking the woman. She had a red mark on her neck where Ingracia had pushed her. The video was shown to the police, who took Ingracia into custody and 2 counts of battery. She was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $1,000 bond. Pay for your stuff and you don't have this problem. I'm sorry, man. Some people are on pharmaceuticals. A villager was arrested after an alleged golf cart road rage incident that occurred when he was on his way home from Brownwood Paddock Square. Sheldon Scott Ingstrom, 59, who lives in the village of Hammock at Finney, was traveling in his golf cart at about 7:30 p.m. Monday on the golf cart path near the Okahumpka Recreation Center when he apparently got impatient with the line of golf carts in front of him. Ingstrom managed to pass the other golf carts, but then stopped at the stop sign and attempted to wave some of the carts past him. A woman in the golf cart indicated she did not want to go around him, and the Washington native started yelling and screaming at her. Ingstrom got out of the golf cart and began walking aggressively toward a man's golf cart. The man said Ingstrom began chest-bumping him, and the man punched Ingstrom in self-defense. He told Ingstrom to leave him alone and asked what the hell was wrong with him. You'll be asking that question a lot around here. The police officer had went to Ingstrom's home and asked Ingstrom to step outside, but he refused and slammed the door. The officer attempted to open the door, but Ingstrom was apparently holding it shut. Ingstrom eventually allowed the officer to enter the home, but refused to put his hands behind his back. He resisted efforts to be handcuffed. The village's public safety department was called to the scene to evaluate dried blood on Ingstrom's mouth. He told paramedics that the man in the golf cart did not like the fact Ingstrom had tried to pass him. Ingstrom was arrested on charges of battery and resisting arrest. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center on a $1,000 bond. I could believe either story's there. I've seen a lot of this kind of thing around here. A suspect living in a rented villa in the Villages was arrested in the theft of a golf cart. Jerry Michael Lay Jr., 51, is facing a charge of grand theft of a motor vehicle and was taken into custody on Friday by Sumter County Sheriff's deputies. He was being held on a $5,000 bond at the Sumter County Detention Center. He is believed to have been involved in the theft of a 2015 Yamaha golf cart stolen in May from Enterprise Rentals located at Lake Sumter Landing. A woman drove the rented golf cart to Enterprise where she picked up a rental car. She returned 2 days later and found the golf cart had disappeared. Community Watch assisted with video footage, which helped lead deputies to Lay at his rented villa at 1116 San Bernardino Road in San Leandro Villas. Lay has a lengthy criminal record, including a 2019 arrest in connection with a stolen golf cart. Two things. One, if you're going to go rent a car at Lake Sumter or whatever, why are you leaving your golf cart just sitting up there for 2 days? I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm just saying it's pretty reckless of you to do that if you don't want to get it stolen. And two, he's renting a villa. Once again, property management company will rent these things to anybody. They don't care. They don't vet them. And here's one right here, a criminal record, and he's renting. Why? Is it legal? Yes. But should it be done? That's the question. A Pennsylvania sex offender has checked into the Waterfront Inn at Lake Sumter Landing in the Villages. Robert Mitchell, 79, is currently a guest at the hotel, according to sex offender registration information from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. He has registered it as a temporary address. Mitchell has lived since 2016 in Mulberry, Florida, in Polk County. He was convicted in 2008 in involuntary deviant sexual intercourse in Montgomery, Pennsylvania. He previously stayed at the Waterfront Inn in 2019, and he's back. We'll see more of this guy. The destruction of a home in the Villages this past week due to an apparent lightning strike has many residents interested in learning more about protecting their property. A study group on lightning will be giving a free, non-commercial educational lightning safety presentation at the Property Owners Association monthly meeting at 7 p.m. Tuesday, June 20th at Laurel Manor Recreation Center. National Lightning Safety Council is designated June 18th through the 24th as Lightning Safety Awareness Week to highlight the dangers of lightning and how to avoid being a victim. Last year, there were 19 fatalities, including 4 in Florida. The Florida victims included 2 teenagers rowing on a lake, another in a park, and a 4th under a tree. To date, there has been 5 lightning fatalities, including 2 in Florida, 1 boating and another a roofer. Will lightning rods protect you? I've already given you my opinion about it and what I'm going to do, but if you think it will and it helps you sleep at night, get them. The subjects to be covered are personal lightning safety outdoors and indoors. You understand they're talking about surge protectors and all that kind of stuff in your house. Lightning induces surges to appliances and electronics. Yes, very sensitive electronics like computers and things, it'll wipe them out and they can't be fixed. Lightning protection systems, commonly called lightning rods. You do what you think is fair. Remember the lady in the Mercedes that ran over the 2 bicyclists, got out of her car, walked back, saw them laying on the road, got back in the Mercedes and went home. Later the next day, I think it was, they found her car. She took it clear to Gainesville, or at least had it taken to Gainesville to get the damage on her car fixed. The villager convicted in a 2020 hit and run crash seriously injured 2 bicyclists is unhappy with her prison accommodations. Lady, this ain't a hotel you're going to. Marilyn Hamilton, 91, who is serving a 5-year prison sentence at a Lowell Correctional Center in Marion County, recently filed a motion seeking an early release from prison. Within the motion, Hamilton expressed her unhappiness with her accommodations at a woman's minimum security prison. Minimum security prison. Hamilton said she has been assigned to the Victor Dormitory, which is a medical dorm that has a lot of medical patients. She has asked to be moved to the insensitized dorm, but she acknowledged it will take a long time to get in. Hamilton began serving her sentence in January. She is scheduled for release in 2027. Well, let's see. We got 1 hole-in-one. Joanne Hawker of the village of Fernandina was all smiles as she got her first hole-in-one. She scored the lucky ace on Sunday, June 11th at hole number 1 at the Sarasota Executive Golf Course. Congratulations, Joanne Hoke, on your first hole-in-one. Let's do a letter to the editor. To the editor, to say that all of us who live in the villages are drunks, snobs, and act like animals, who says that? See, now here's an accusation right there. Who says that? Who says we're all drunks, snobs, and act like animals? Based on articles in the media is like saying all the residents in the surrounding areas are drug addicted, wife beating, and child porn addicts. For every one story of a badly behaving resident in the villages, there are 10 stories of residents in the surrounding area. Everybody should know better than to point fingers like that. Ruth Garza from the village of Hillsboro. I'm in Hillsboro. I have no idea who that is. To the editor, I do not believe that this should be a matter of anonymous complaints, trolls, or just crosses. This is a legal matter of selective enforcement. If a code violation is identified, no matter how it was discovered, it should be uniformly enforced by the entity who established the codes. The property owners should not be put into a situation to turn their neighbors in. If you establish the rules, then you should enforce them. This is true even for property resales. The seller, along with his agent, inspector, or title company, are required to disclose to a potential buyer about any code violations. If the wiring, plumbing, etc. doesn't meet code, the buyer has a legal case against the seller and his agent. A code is a code. Enforce it or face a legal ramification. This is sent in by Thomas Ocal, the village of Santo Domingo. With that being said, let's get on with it. Toward the end of the video, you guys watch it. See if you can find these violations yourself on some bad parking in the villages. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends about my channel, get them all to subscribe. See if you recognize some of the bad parking.
And don't leave your keys in the golf cart.